of its first flight this year, the Havilland DH-100, as it started out. That occurred on the 20th of September 1943. And of course the most distinctive thing about the Vampire is the twin boom layout. Initially it was known as the Spider Crab before the name was changed to Vampire. The reason they went for this layout was because they were concerned that having only a single jet engine as opposed to the two on, for example, the Meteor, would lead to too great a loss of thrust if the jet pipe was excessively long. So, a solution was found by going for a twin boom configuration, allowing a shorter jet pipe and minimising that loss of thrust. The engine chosen was developed by Frank Halford, who was then de Havilland's main engine man. It was the Halford H1 initially. It later became known as the de Havilland Goblin, produced by the same manufacturer as the aircraft. Very interesting. De Havilland, of course, had a great deal of experience building wooden aeroplanes. They had developed that during the interwar years and on into World War II, most famously with the very effective Mosquito. And the Vampire structure mixes wood and metal. The fuselage pod has a balsa wood core with layers of beech veneer inside and outside, but the wings, the tail booms and the tail are all in metal. The early RAF Vampires were purely day fighters. They came into service too late to see World War II action. That was in 1945. But in the early post-war years, Vampires were involved in some of the most pioneering feats involving jet aircraft. Those weren't all to do with the RAF. Perhaps the greatest naval pilot, RAF Vampire unit, made the first flypast by jet aircraft over London. Another 54 Squadron, which was based with 247 at Odium in Hampshire, carried out a remarkable flight 70 years ago this month, in July 1948, when some of its Mark III Vampires became the first ever RAF jet aircraft, and by a small margin, the first jet aircraft of all to fly across the Atlantic. Just managed to beat the squadron of United States Air Force Lockheed F-80 Shooting Star jet fighters in reaching the opposite side of the pond. And when they were there, number 54 Squadron Vampires thrilled spectators at air shows around the United States and Canada, because 54 had formed the RAF's first ever jet aircraft aerobatic team. And the Vampire was a beautiful aeroplane for that sort of work. Very, very sweet handling. A bit lacking in power for some manoeuvres, and it suffered a slight lag in throttle response, according to one of number 54 Squadron's pilots. But nonetheless, it was ideally suited. Number 16 Squadron, which flew Vampire FB-5 fighter bombers in Germany, even had its own aerobatic team at one stage, with the aircraft in the interwar Hendon display traditions tied together. Fighter bomber version was introduced in 1949, and they served around the world with the 2nd Tactical Air Force in Germany, with the Middle East and Far East Air Forces. Not until 1967 were the final T-11s phased out from the regular training role. And it was a successful aircraft on the export market as well. 31 nations used Vampires of one type or another. Among them, Norway. The Royal Norwegian Air Force's fighter pilots had a great deal of experience on British fighters, having during wartime flown the likes of the Gloucester Gladiator and the Supermarine Spitfire. And so they were reportedly delighted when it was announced that their first jets would be also British fighters in the form of Vampires. They had 62 of them. And that's the reason the Norwegian Air Force Historical Squadron operates these two aircraft. They're both ex-Swiss Air Force. The lead aircraft is a two-seat T-55. The second one, a single-seat FD-6 fighter bomber. As you probably noticed, for 2018 and RAF 100, the Historical Squadron has put both of these aircraft into RAF markings. The two-seater carries the colours of a number 4 Squadron aircraft, which was flown as part of the British Air Force's occupation in post-war Germany. And the single-seater is in the markings of number 72 Squadron. And that was a unit that was stationed at RAF North Weald in Essex, an airfield with great Norwegian connections, because Norwegian pilots flew Spitfires in large numbers from North Weald during the Second World War. Now, it's because of that the Norwegian Air Force Historical Squadron, when it brings its two Vampires and its Big 15 over to Britain for summer airshow appearances, often temporarily bases the aircraft at North Weald, helping perpetuate that link at North Weald. But in the air, we've just enjoyed the sight and the sound of a quite enchanting display by the Norwegian Air Force Historical Squadron, led by its founder, Kenneth Orkdisler. He's a man with nearly 15,000 flying hours to his credit, a lot of them during his career from which he's now retired as a captain for Scandinavian Airlines. He now runs the Historical Squadron full-time, and he's the instructor and examiner on the Vampire, and flying in an absolutely beautiful rock-steady formation with Kenneth is Jyri Mattila from Finland, the Finnish Air Force's chief test pilot. His day job sees him flying Hawks and FA-18 Hornets, but he's recently joined the Historical Squadron. The Finns used to fly Vampires as well. He's also an accomplished display pilot on aerobatic aircraft in Finland and a flying display director in his own right there. Two aircraft rolling out with that beautiful whistle from the Goblin engines, the two de Havilland Vampires of the Norwegian Air Force Historical Squadron.